Hey, welcome to Integrative Preparedness. I'm Steve Smith. How are you all today? I have a question for you. Are you ready to start over? Now that's a pretty broad question, isn't it? But it comes from the cover of my first book, The Reversion, and on the subheads down there it says, "When the world collapsed, some were ready to start over." You know, that's what preparedness really is, isn't it? So that's what I want to ask you. Are you ready if the whole world collapsed to start over? What would it take? What would it look like if the world collapsed? In my book series, I talk about an entire collapse of the world, and in that it's a CME EMP event. I won't tell you which one it is because they're slightly different, and you find out in the last part, the last page of the second book. And it's about preparing for, surviving, and then, very importantly, rebuilding after a collapse. Now, the collapse could be something like was in my books. It could be a political collapse. It could be an economic collapse. It could be who knows? I mean, pick your poison. It could be any kind of things that in our very complex world today, its collapse could cause a cascading effect on all other interconnected systems, and causing a collapse that pretty much puts you back at ground zero, living on and trying to rebuild from whatever it is you personally have. So, whatever that is, could be different, but the results could be the same. The important part of this was the starting over. I think the exciting part is when the world collapsed, and then I say some were ready. And what that implies is not all were ready, and most weren't ready. But what were they ready to do? Were they ready to just survive? Were they ready to just hunker down and start eating all their canned goods? Were they, what were they ready to do? Well, down at the bottom there, they were ready to start over and rebuild. The world we live in now is the culmination of centuries of effort and discovery and industrialization and invention, and it has led to a life, that's pretty easy for most of us. And so it's difficult to project and really make ourselves think about, accept, and understand what the world might be without all those things. And, people in the preparedness business, because I'm in the preparedness business, okay? Most people are in, and I know some people will look down on that and say, well, that's just not very good. Of course, whatever business they're in is just fine, right? But most people are in the preparedness. It's a hobby. It's an interest, and that's great. That's the way it ought to be for most people, to be honest. It should be something that you're aware of and are preparing for and taking care of, and insuring against catastrophe, just like you have car insurance and homeowners insurance and things like that. I on the other hand, am in the preparedness business. I make my living writing books about it, writing articles about it, advising people. Integrative preparedness, I handle, or used to more than I do now. Security analysis, things like that. I won't go into the other things that I do under that umbrella. It's not important, since I'm not promoting that here. You can buy my books and you can watch my videos, but you can't. Most of you wouldn't be able to come and take classes from me on the things that I teach. So I'm in the preparedness business, So it's natural for me to think about these things. But most people, it's more of just kind of a mental fantasy type, and not for you all, because I know a lot of you all, I mean, you've shared with me what you've done to take care of business, and man, you all for the most part are, you are tightened up on that. But that's the important part. How do we start over? That's where I think a lot of people stop before they get to that point. They're set up to survive. They're set up to establish some kind of ongoing survival thing. And I think in most cases, that's, while many people understand the importance of community, many people don't. They just kind of, well, it's me and a couple of neighbors, and they don't really think much beyond that. They're thinking, well, me and a couple of neighbors, and I guess until we all die, that might be it. So I want to suggest that you take your planning farther down the road. Farther down the road means what happens next? What happens after that? What happens after you've survived that first year during which 90% of the people have died, or maybe more? What happens when whatever happens has happened? The results have pretty much manifest themselves. Now what? Now what is the big question? Are you ready to start over? On the back of this same book, there's there's my picture. On the back of the same book, it says, the death of one society can be the birth of another. So these books, for those of you who have read them, know this, and feel free. I get a lot of people. There will be a lot of people watching this video that aren't familiar with me, or didn't know that I was a writer, and didn't know, or sometimes didn't know that I wrote the books. Occasionally I'll get somebody that says, I've read all those books, but I didn't know that you were the guy who wrote them. Yes, I am. The subject, and like I usually say, and I haven't said this yet, is this video. All my videos are brought to you by my books, the Stonemont series, The Reversion, The Revival, The Renewal, and Appeal to Heaven, and The Blessings of Freedom. Number 6 is being worked on now. And yes, I'm not ashamed to advertise my books, because that's why I wrote them. See, I didn't write them to hide them in a box, but I want people to read them, because these are a lesson. And some people say, if you really wanted to help people, you'd just do this for free. I want to help people, and that's why I wrote all these books. See? There's more in these books than you can get. And if you sat down and you watched mine and other YouTubes all day long for the next year. It's what these books are about. Starting over. Now, in order to make it through the problem, you have to have what it takes to survive it, certainly. And that's where a lot of the fun part is, because the fun part is buying stuff. At least some people think it is. Buying stuff. I got to buy this and buy that and buy this and buy that, And it's kind of like, when you buy a bunch of camping equipment, and that's cool, and then you go out there and you use it, but it rains, and then it's cold, and then it's ice, and all of a sudden, all that camping equipment that was so cool when you bought it at the store and loaded it into the truck, wow, man, it's just not quite, you're not thinking about how cool it is right now, right? Totally different situation. The better you prepare, the better you're going to survive. That's why at the end of each of my videos, I put in the tag, we prepare well today in order to live well tomorrow. You will live the level of tomorrow directly proportionate to how well you've prepared today. So that's the first question. How well have you prepared? How well you're able to prepare depends a lot on how much you're able to understand, how well you're able to understand the truth of what might happen, how horrible, how terrible it can be. So the more you can understand that, and that's one of my purposes in these books, the more you understand that, the more you're able to prepare for it. So say that you've got all of your stuff, and you got all your gear, and you've got a place, either a place that you can defend well, and or that you can get to a place that you can defend well. Who do you have with you? Do you have people that are going to be a part of a community? Because that's really what this is about. Communities, rebuilding communities, and reestablishing the ability to support yourself, so you're not eating your canned goods, but establishing your gardens and your orchards and your flocks and your fields and all that, and establishing your community and ability to rebuild and protect what you've rebuilt. Is your head there? Is your mindset there? Are you projecting it beyond? Because it should be. There's a saying that if you don't know where you're going, it's difficult to know how to get there, right? So in order to be able to prepare for something, you have to have some idea of a destination. Here's what I want my life to be like if everything falls apart. And if you're not able to, here again, the books help you understand what really might happen. They help you, they gives kind of a guideline of what it might take to be ready to do that. And then how do I reestablish getting along with the world around me, or not, because there's going to be other people out there. How do you form your groups, your communities, and then how do you deal with people who may not, be on the same page with you? How do you start over? Now, I know people who are starting over just in their personal lives, So when we talk about SHTF, we usually talk about the big one, but there are people who start over in their personal lives all the time. I have a very good friend, and one of my closest friends, is pretty much starting over in their life right now. And you know what? The second half of their life is going to be much better than the first half. Here's an interesting thing. Because they're going to enter the second half of their life with all of the knowledge that they got in the first half, which is considerable, and none of the baggage. How about that? Those of you who are religious kind of know what I'm talking about. It's one of those born again things, that when we are born again, when we give our lives to Christ, and we accept Him as our Savior, and He has forgiven us of our sins, we are reborn. It means we're reborn a new person. We haven't lost all the knowledge that we have in the past. We have given up, hopefully, our sinful ways, but being human, of course, we are imperfect. But we haven't given up our knowledge, but now we are set on a new course. A new course, headed in a new direction for a new destination. Does that make sense? It's the same with preparedness. Our lives tend to become very complex, very, anxiety-filled and things like this. People just running the rat wheel to try to keep up with nothing. And all of a sudden, something changes. A lot of people are prepared to continue along in the way the world is going now, but when the world stops going on the way it is now, they're not prepared for that. So my question, anyway, it was part question and part advice. Be prepared to start over. I'm going to make another video, probably not today. This is the second one I've shot today, and it's kind of a rainy day, so it's giving me time to shoot another one instead of work outside. But I have other things to do. I got to get back inside writing, got to have breakfast and write some more on the new book. I know, I have a horrible day, don't I? What was I lost my train of thought. Well, anyway, think about it. Think about, are you ready to start over, and what that, oh yeah, I know what I was going to say. I'm going to make another one probably tomorrow that's kind of like this, but different. And it asks a bigger question. So I'll see you there for that. For right now, think about what are you ready to start over? And think about what this says. When the world collapsed, some were ready. Are you included in the some? Ready to do what? Ready to start over. And then, as it says on the back, the death of one society can be the birth of another. I know that a lot of you know what that means, right? We've seen it in the past, haven't we? Okay. Well, you all have a good day. Remember that we prepare well today in order to live well tomorrow. If you haven't started on the Stonemont series, I highly encourage you to do it. It's one of the best things you can do to prepare yourself. And as some of the people put down in yesterday's video, some of the people who have read the series, they will vouch for that. Do it. If you're not with us on Patreon, we'd love to have you over there, because I put more stuff over there than I can put on YouTube, and it's stuff that you'll not only enjoy, but will be very useful to you. So I'm going to get back. I'm going to finish my cup. Take a sip right here. Sometimes I'm a creature of impulse. Not very often, but when I need a sip of coffee, I want it. I don't need it, but I want it, so I do it. And you all have a great day. And do something to get ready. And maybe the first thing to do today is to think about, the way to prepare today is thinking about, am I ready to start over? And if I'm not, what do I need to do to be ready? You all have a great day. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Bye-bye.